We start. Good afternoon, Mr. Chandrasekhar, and warm welcome from JLB Agro. We
Right.
just want to a small interview for overview in current pulses situation. So,
Sure.
Mr. You all, I know that you are the very good writer in pulses industry and very long experience. So we are get benefited all the pulses fraternity that you can guide us and what you think about the current situation.
All right. Thank you. Yep.
So. My first question is, Mr. Chandrasekhar, that recently you write an article in Business Line that impact of the duty reduction in red lentils. So can you explore and can you give your idea what exactly you want to say on this? You already read,
Yeah.
but when you say face to face, then it's give a better view.
True. 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 It's like this. Over the last 2 years, generally, prices of pulses in India have ruled below the minimum support price. And the government of India's efforts at procurement and price support operations have not had any great impact because prices continue to rule still well below the minimum support price. For example, chana minimum support price is 4875 rupees per quintal, but the market price is at least 800 to 1000 rupees less. Similarly, PGNP is something like 5700 or 5800 rupees a quintal, but PGNP is available at least at a discount of 500 or 600 rupees at 5200 or around. Okay, so prices have significantly for long periods of time ruled below the minimum support price. Farmers need support. Farmer needs to market the crop because I believe MSP is a sovereign guarantee, and the government has given this sovereign guarantee. And the government must stand by its sovereign guarantee by purchasing from the farmers at MSP. Unfortunately, it has not happened. Number one. Number two, lentil has been an exception in the last few months. Lentil harvest took place in March, April. According to the Government of India Agriculture Ministry, the harvest size is about 1.4 million tons. Although my belief, because of unseasonal rains and hailstorm end March, early April, my own estimate of the crop is between 1.1 and 1.2 million tons, slightly lower. And prices of lentils have gone slightly above the minimum support price, and therefore farmers are happy to be receiving a price above the MSP, and state agencies like NAFED now don't have to start procuring lentil like they are procuring chana that needs support. They don't have to procure lentil because prices have just crossed the MSP threshold. It is under this circumstance of a crop that was harvested a month or 2 months earlier and whose price has just about crossed the minimum support price, comes an announcement from the finance ministry saying that import duty on lentils would be reduced from 30% to 10%. I know what the trigger is. The trigger is a statement made by the governor of the Reserve Bank of India 2 weeks ago, where he looked at inflation outlook and he said that pulses prices are beginning to move up, and therefore there is an inflation risk, and therefore there has to be a review of the customs duty on pulses. I completely disagreed with this view, and I wrote in the Business Line whether the Reserve Bank has got its inflation outlook wrong. And my sense is they have got their inflation outlook wrong because they took April as the month to work on their price outlook. April was a very, very unusual month, as you know, total national lockdown. There was huge disruption in the supply chain. Markets were not functioning. Dal mills were not functioning. Transporters were not functioning. And therefore, and there was panic buying at the retail end. And therefore, prices started to go up, retail prices. And therefore, you can't make a projection or a prediction about future prices based on a completely distorted picture which the month of April presented. But this is what the Reserve Bank did, and they isolated pulses very specifically, saying that pulses are contributing to inflation at the retail level, and therefore they also said there is a case for review of customs duty. Obviously, the finance ministry accepted this suggestion, and I suspect they have reduced the duty on lentil from 30% to 10%. There is absolutely no justification for this at all. While I'm happy that customs duties are getting reduced, but at this point of time, in my view, there is no justification for reduction of duty on lentils. This should actually happen. This reduction in duty should ideally happen from 1st September, because over the next 2 months, the crop will be marketed, the Rabi crop will be marketed, and from September onward, there could be tightness in supplies of lentil, and reducing duty at that point of time, in my opinion, would have made sense, and that is why I commented. Yep.
So this what you said, that means after September also you want that duty will be reduced. Right now you don't want, but now the market perception in the market, people thinking that the duty will be reduced. Government maybe come with the new notification at 31st August that duty will be remain 10%, and because as you said the cargo is a little less in India. So what do you think? Government can do this, or what is the better idea for this?
I agree. It's like this. The duty need not have been reduced at this point of time. The duty reduction should have taken place from 1st September. But now that they have reduced the duty, I'm sure cargoes will come. My own contacts in the US and in Canada say that already there is a ship with 150,000 tons lentil cargo is on the way to India. And I'm sure more ships would come. The point is, all this cargo will now be available in the coming months during July, August, September, October, which will help meet the festival demand during August, September, October. There is no doubt at all. In October or in September, mid-September, late September, early October, the government of India will have to review the Kharif crop output prospects and then take a call whether to roll back the duty on lentil to back to 30%, roll up the duty to 30%, or to continue to keep it at 10%. Should the duty on chickpea, which is 60%, should that be reduced? That will depend on the price behavior of chana or chickpea sometime in September, October. So these calls, these decisions will be taken only during September, October. It is premature to speculate now whether or not the government will extend this concession beyond September.
Sir, but what you say that the trade analysts say that after reducing the duty, they claim that market is not going so big, because earlier trade is 58, 5900, now it's 57, 56, 50. So as per their perception, they said that the market is not getting impact with the reducing duty. So what do you think on that?
There are two things in this. One, the cargoes have not arrived in India as yet, is number one. Even before the arrival of the cargo, the prices have dropped by 150, 200 rupees a quintal. And when the cargo actually physically arrives in India, there could be further reduction in the domestic prices. There could be further 200 or 300 rupees reduction in domestic prices is what I expect, number one. Number two, what is also important is that as we move, as we cross June, as we cross July, August, September, October are traditional festival months in our country, when consumption of all the food products actually goes up, whether it is rice, wheat, maize, pulses, sugar, edible oil, consumption goes up manifold during the festival season of August, September, and October. And therefore, there will be more demand during August, September, and October than it is at present. And the cargo that's coming now of lentil will obviously be able to meet the demand of festival during August, September, and October. That's the point.
Okay, so whatever you said, which I understand, that instead of cutting down the duty now, government have to cut duty after August and September onwards.
Exactly.
So now
exactly.
it's already done, so there is nothing will be changed, and we have to see how price reacted on September or October, and then government have to take call on this.
Sure.
Sir, one more question for this deregulation. Government just announced that they deregulate the things, pulses, and it's not essential commodity. What exactly you think that it's changed the pulses market? What exactly it's impact the international trader, Indian trader, and Indian importers? On this specific perspective, I asking this question.
Sure, absolutely. There are three significant reforms which the government of India has announced. The first significant marketing reform, agri-marketing reform, is that certain food commodities like cereals and pulses and oil seeds and oils have been taken out of the purview of the Essential Commodities Act. The Essential Commodities Act, which is a central government legislation, gave powers to the government to impose storage limits on various stakeholders, impose transportation limits, movement restrictions on stakeholders. It also gave powers to the state government to raid people, seize cargo, etc. And that created a huge amount of diffidence in the minds of the traders in particular, because they were not sure when the Essential Commodities Act will be invoked. Traders have not yet forgotten what happened in 2015 and 2016. There were indiscriminate raids on people, cargoes were seized, and there was a huge amount of harassment which people faced. At this point of time, the policymakers believe that we are reasonably self-sufficient, there is no shortage, and therefore they want to keep some of these essential food commodities, including pulses, out of the purview of the Essential Commodities Act. We must welcome this. This is extremely important. We must welcome it. Traders will now be able to, processors, traders, wholesalers, exporters, whoever, all the value chain participants will now be able to build inventory with a lot more confidence, saying this law is not going to be invoked against me frivolously. And therefore, there will be more confidence among the value chain participants, which means they will buy more and more regularly from farmers and start building their inventory. This will improve the marketability of the crop, and it will help the farmers kind of market their crops very, very regularly and steadily and gain their income. So this is a very positive step. But as I wrote a few days ago, this law still has a small print, and that small print is, under exceptional circumstances, the government of India reserves its right to invoke this law. And I have said, while politically it makes sense to keep some power under the reserve of the government of India, we need more predictability and transparency about the application of this law. Okay. Therefore, the government must make a set of criteria very clear to the trade and industry that under this conditions, we may be forced to invoke this exceptional law. Therefore, it's a question of government of India and the policymakers gaining the confidence and trust of the trading community. Unless that trust is gained, traders will still be apprehensive about building inventory. But how do you gain this trust? How will the government of India gain the trust of the trade and industry? By building predictability and transparency in the operation of this law. It is possible. And second, the government must give a reasonable amount of time. Even if they want to say that we want to invoke this law, it cannot take place with immediate effect. Give traders a week's time, 10 days time, 2 weeks, whatever. You give them time to reduce the
clear
stock
the
limit.
stocks and all the things. So at least
Clear
they will
the
be,
stock.
yeah.
Exactly.
Suddenly
And
you
there
cannot
shall be no.
invoke these things. Yeah, I totally understand.
There shall be no. So there has to be notice, and there has to be the trigger points have to be very clear.
Sir,
If the
I
government
have
of
to
India
ask.
says,
Sir, I have to ask one thing that as you think that government will be in this amendment, there will be reduce in import duties and more discount the taxation for the pulses, especially in the chickpeas and the lentils and the yellow peas. What do you think about the yellow peas? Government can think for the yellow peas because we have enough chickpeas, a good huge stock. Carry forward is there, and I don't think that government can think for that. But what is your view? Because things are changed now. You deregulate the pulses. So what's exactly impact on the yellow peas, green peas, and lentils and chickpeas duties on that?
well, I must admit and I must mention, there is no significant deregulation in the pulses sector. Yes, pulses are outside the Essential Commodities Act, is fine, which is very good. Pulses import policy is still not liberal. There are quantitative restrictions on PGNP, on moong and on urad and on yellow pea. Then you have tariff restrictions on chickpea and on lentil. On yellow pea, you have both quantitative restriction and tariff restriction. Okay? My sense is yellow pea is a wonderful pulse which this country over years has got used to consuming, and I think we should encourage higher and higher import of yellow pea, particularly for supply to the vulnerable sections of the population. In the last 2 months,
sorry to object you on this. I sorry to object on this, but as per the government said that we have a good quantity of chickpeas, and yellow peas there is no use of yellow peas. That's why they stop import. So we have a chickpeas of 110 million stock is there, crop is there, and government have 1.4 million stock, current NAFED have a stock. So do you think it's required the yellow peas we can import for India?
It is a myth to believe that higher import of yellow pea will drag down the price of chickpea. It's a myth. There is no empirical evidence. There is no research evidence. This is the first point I want to make. The second point I want to make is, yes, even after restricting yellow pea import over the last several months now, have chickpea prices improved? Have they come anywhere close to the minimum support price? No. This is not because we have too much of chickpea. This is because there is a demand destruction. We are not consuming enough pulses in this country. This price of chickpea is not a supply side issue. It's a demand side issue. As a nation with 400 plus million people living below the poverty line, and with such serious nutrition challenge in this country, pervasive undernutrition and malnutrition, protein deficiency, we should actually be consuming more and more pulses. But we are not. We are not consuming more and more pulses because pulses will have to be supplied through government-sponsored welfare programs. Until that is done, our pulses consumption will not increase. And therefore, it is important for us to increase our pulses consumption. We need to address the demand side by including pulses under the public distribution and other welfare programs. Once that is done, the price of pulses will actually start rising in this country. Today, you find there is too much of pulses and prices depressed, not because of higher supplies, but because there is no corresponding demand. We need to grow our demand. We need to boost our demand through our welfare programs and our pro-consumer policies of the government, which I find is absent. I think therefore I've been pushing for this. I'm writing, I'm talking to people, I'm talking on television and several channels. And that is exactly what I would expect even the trade bodies to do, lobby the government for higher and higher consumption of pulses in this country. Let me give an example. Our per capita availability of pulses is only 14 kilograms per person per year. We consume dal, right? We don't consume whole or raw pulse, we consume dal. For in terms of dal, our per capita availability is only 14 kilograms, whereas nutritionists recommend at least 20 kilograms of per capita consumption. If we have to have 20 kilograms of per capita availability, our pulses production should be 30 million tons and not 22 or 23 million tons. Only after producing, harvesting 30 million tons, you keep something back for planting or seeding or sowing, then the rest goes to the dal mill. There is a 15-20% milling loss. To take all that into account, then you will get 14 kilograms per person per year. So we are nowhere near 30 million tons production.
Okay, so what I understand from your conversation that we have to more focus on the demand side rather than supply side. We don't have to worry on supply side. We have to more focus to government to think that how can we consume more pulses. Sir, again, one more question.
One point. Allow me to make one point. It is also important, and I have repeated it in so many forums. Sorry. That one point is, while in the last 3 years, our pulses production has gone to 22, 23 million tons, and generally prices have remained below the minimum support price. We know for a fact that Indian agriculture is fragile and vulnerable. We are only one bad monsoon away from a farm disaster. God forbid, what if a bad monsoon strikes us next year, or there is famine or whatever, a drought, for example? Then we need to go back to the international market. Okay, so it will make sense for India to continue to stay within the global value chain. While we
that's why, sir, that's why government always open there is a quota for pigeon peas. Africa we can import chickpeas without any hassle free. We always quota for the black mape. So government as of now they are still in the market. They completely not out from the market, but yeah, they are completely not open also, because we have to see our farmers also.
Absolutely,
so
absolutely.
One more thing, sir, I just want to ask you especially for the chickpeas. With the NCDX always play a major role for the chickpeas price, and there we have heard a lot of things that NCDX price is low and actual demand is there, but price is manipulation. Can you give some light on that? How can we fix some credibility for these things that nobody can manipulate the chickpeas or somewhere somehow?
Let me make it very clear. NCDEX is a neutral platform. It is an electronic platform. NCDEX does not decide prices. The buyers and sellers on that electronic platform decide prices, and NCDEX merely announces what the price is. This is the first point. For it's a completely neutral platform. They have no influence whatsoever over prices, which are set by the traders on the platform, the buyers and sellers. This is number one. Second, if prices are too low or prices are too high, there is a mechanism of imposing margins on the buy side or the sell side. Therefore, maybe there is a case for review of the margining system, etc. Therefore, if the trade were to make a representation to NCDEX to review their margin strategies or margin planning, and maybe they will, I'm sure, consider. The third point is, I know for a fact that while the minimum support price for chana announced by the government is 4,875 rupees a quintal, in the open market, it is available at 3,800, 3,900 or less than 4,000 rupees. And I find on the NCDEX platform, it is around 4,100. Okay. I'm not a trader. I have no trading interest. I don't watch these prices every day, but I know very broadly the farm gate prices are below 4,000 for chana, whereas NCDEX platform is showing 100 or 150 rupees more than 200 rupees more than the farm gate prices. And therefore, if there is a grievance against NCDEX, I think we should take it up right to the exchange. I'm sure exchange will be open to reviewing the position. I have no doubt about it.
One more point I have to ask you that can India export the chickpeas for their neighbor countries? What can we do for doing this to increase the demand, as well as because Sri Lanka, Bangladesh, they can import from Australia, but they cannot import from India as much what we expect. And can we focus more on Southeast Asia, because we have then the good quantity and it's all going in a NAFED, and cargo will be not taken care properly, it's go waste. So rather than going waste, can we export, generate the foreign currency and stabilize the international market also with the supply of India chickpeas? What do you think on that, sir?
Yes, absolutely. I've always believed that we can export and we should export. The government of India, after fellows like me wrote about this persistently, spoke on television and in various open forum seminars about need to open up pulses export, the government of India decided early 2018 to allow pulses export, otherwise it was banned. Until the year 2007, pulses export was taking place freely. There was no problem at all. In 2007, there was a huge in food inflation, and therefore a lot of things were banned, including pulses export. And it took 11 years for the government of India to remove the restriction on pulses export. And therefore, after fellows like me continue to write and continue to advise the government, they finally relented and opened up pulses export sometime in early 2018. I've written a number of commentaries on this. This is the first proposition. So I'm happy pulses export is today open. But the markets that the trade had cultivated until 2007 have all been lost in the last 10 or 12 years, because we never serviced the market. Except for Kabuli chickpea, no other pulse was allowed for export, number one. Even in Kabuli chickpea, our export was about 2 lakhs, 2.5 lakh tons, 250,000 tons, very, very, very broadly. And I believe there is an opportunity for India to raise its export of pulses in general and its chickpea export in particular with neighboring countries. Bangladesh, I know, imports something like 1.5 million tons of pulses annually. Sri Lanka imports something like 500,000 tons of pulses annually. We have bilateral agreement with these countries. What prevents the government of India from talking to Bangladesh government or to the Sri Lankan government to say that we are willing to offer chickpea and other pulses at very competitive rates, and we should be able to supply? The problem is twofold. One second, please. The problem is twofold. One, there is complete complacency on the part of the government of India to push these exports to our neighboring markets is number one. In spite of people like me telling the government of India, writing about it in newspapers, there is no initiative. Number two, what is the trade doing? What have the trade associations done to maximize our export? Have they explored these markets? I'm afraid that the answer is no. Yeah.
Yeah, so I completely agree, sir, because people are more interested in import rather than exports, because sometimes we cannot match the price because the MSP, we cannot get the price at that level. So there is some price mechanism which is not working over there. So I hope government can definitely think on that, and you keep writing on that. My last question, sir, to you for from here to next 6 months. What do you think about the pulses? What do you think about the supply? What do you think about the prices? And what do you think about the import? All three aspects. Can you a little brief on that? That What do you think
Right.
from here for the lentils, chickpeas, pigeon peas, black mape, as per the current data, what you have, and what is your idea? Because then after that we close this interview.
Within the country, my strong sense is we have enough pulses to last until until about September, including meeting the festival demand during August, September, October, etc. So we have enough. We have enough crop. Number one. Number two, we have seen massive demand destruction in the last 2 or 3 months because of national lockdown. Many of the manufacturing units are closed. Construction activity has come to a standstill. And then therefore there's a huge amount of reverse migration. And people have lost jobs. Millions of jobs have been lost. Incomes have been lost. And therefore, there is no money in the hands of probably 150, 200 million people to eat enough, even to eat enough food. So that's leading to destruction of demand. And this destruction of demand is likely, in my opinion, to continue over the next 2 or 3 months, because during the monsoon season, during June, July, August, September, not much import-export activity will take place. Not much construction activity will take place. Or the only activity which will take place is agriculture. And agriculture has its own limits and limitations in absorbing the migrant labor. Therefore, I don't expect a significant spike in demand until about September. And therefore, it will be reasonable to assume that pulses prices will continue to remain fairly stable at the current low levels. It is possible, as we keep consuming month after month, chickpea prices would start rising as we go away from the harvest season. When we go towards August, September, October, I expect at least anything between 10 and 15% increase in chickpea prices as we go towards the next Kharif harvest, that is September, October. And I also expect a small spike in pigeon pea prices or tuar prices. The quota for urad and pigeon pea or tuar has been announced, but I'm not sure if actually permits have been issued. I'm not very sure.
No, it's not issued yet.
But
black mape, so urad is already issued, but tuar and moong is still we are waiting for that.
That's right, exactly. Therefore, these permits have to be issued. Therefore, the cargo will most likely come from Myanmar, maybe partly from Africa, and they need to be cleared sometime in July, at least by July or early August, to be able to meet a potential festival demand in August, September, October. Therefore, I expect a small increase in prices of pulses going towards the next Kharif harvest. I don't think both chana and tuar prices will breach the minimum support price and go above the minimum support price. I don't see that situation. What is important is for the government of India, I would, at the risk of repetition, say, is to boost demand for pulses, which is extremely important, so that once you boost demand, prices will start rising, come close to the minimum support price. Farmers will get a good price, and it will also be affordable for the consumers. I think that's the situation I'm seeing. Therefore, demand management is extremely important as supply management. When I say demand management, I mean boosting demand through various welfare programs. And therefore, expect a small spike in prices, but by and large, fairly stable prices of the pulses because of adequate availability of various pulses in the country.
So what I understand from your statement that we have enough stock, we have enough supply,
yes,
and there is nothing more change, small change because of the festival and demand is there. And next 2-3 months there is no demand because of this lockdown. People don't have money to buy enough pulses and all the things. So thank you so much, sir, and it's a very wonderful getting information from you, and we thanks so much for this great information. And we'll keep updating ourselves from your side, and we'll update the market also. Thank you so much.
Well, God bless you. God bless you all.